Hey everyone, Seth at Hub City Vintage, and as we mentioned in the previous portion of this series, it's pretty apparent that this one needs quite a bit of help. And as we move through this disassembly, we'll take a closer look at the good and the bad and figure out just what it'll take to get this one back to its best. I'm going to, other than what you can see here with the missing bezel and the case is dirty and everything, you can even see here that the crown and stem are sort of hanging out a bit. It's missing the set lever axle, and so it was quite a fight for me to get that stem and crown loose from the movement, and after doing so I didn't want to push it all the way back in just to restart that fight, so kind of just left it hanging here. I'm gonna take the case back off of this one and we'll pull this movement out with the dial and hands intact and take a closer look at what we're looking at. So with the movement removed from the case, we can take a closer look at the dial and hands here, and you can see it really is there's quite a bit of character there. Something to notice here, on the hour hand, you can see in the luminous window there that there's quite a large chunk missing, and there's even a little pinhole of missing lume on the end of the minute hand. Now, part of the problem with these hands is don't want to move them around too much because the minute hand is actually dragging the dial there, and those luminous Arabic markers, I don't want to risk messing those up at all. So I'm not going to do much to move the hands here, but we're going to take those off. I'm going to show you a closer look at these hands. They really need quite a bit of help, but I think they certainly are worth saving, and we'll talk about that further. So with the hands out of the way, we can really get a good look at the dial without any sort of obstruction. You can see that the Seiko badge there is a little misaligned. That'll be easy enough to straighten back out. And DX logo looks okay. There's quite a large blemish that looks like it breaks the lacquer there on the right side of the X, and lots of sort of surface scratches throughout. But I think once under a new crystal and once it's been cleaned, the dial's gonna, it won't look anything but better than it does now. And I don't think it looks too bad now, but really the markers are in good shape. We don't have any missing luminous or scratches in the markers, so there is a bit of a drag mark around the center hole there. You can see almost a perfect circle where some portion of the hour hand likely dragged. But speaking of the hour hand, let's take a closer look at those hands. I think that dial's going to be just fine once we get it cleaned up, and once it's on the wrist, it's going to look great. I've got the hands sort of positioned on an old balance holder here so we can get a good look at them. I want you to see from the profile side, the minute hand isn't too bad, but you can certainly see that it definitely is not in the correct shape there. The tail there is bent over, and there's a dip just before the luminous window there, and the hour hand is even, see if I can get it in focus here, even in worse shape. There's the top of the minute hand, and you can see there's almost like some scalloping from where this tail of this minute hand was bent, maybe back and forth, or hit with some sort of a tool. But regardless, they need to be reshaped, and so that's something that we're going to work on for this one. The luminous is probably going to have to go. Any attempts made at straightening these hands would likely mean that this old crumbling luminous would probably fall out anyway. We could attempt to maybe patch those holes with a color matched luminous patch and some binder, but I think it will be best if we just go ahead and remove all the old luminous rather than risk it falling through at some other point. Get those hands clean and straightened so that they can do their job, and we'll do our best to color match the luminous that we reapply to the hands to match that of the hour markers on the dial. Now, the movement itself, surprisingly, if you were to look at the movement, retainer ring might tell you otherwise. There's a bit of rust there. This one, another difference between this one and the earlier models, both the CT619 and 6119 had snap-on case backs. This one has a proper screw down, so it does a good job of keeping moisture out for the most part, but these springs on these movement retaining rings are just base metal, so they rust rather easily, and often see them that they're corroding or breaking. This one just has some surface rust on there. I think I should be able to clean it up just fine. The movement retaining ring itself, if you look even along the inside there, you can see it's pretty clean, and that bodes well for the movement. And we'll take a look at that right now, and I'll show you that the movement itself is actually in really good shape. I had already removed the oscillating weight, which also was in good shape, so that I could set this movement into the movement holder there. Just using a 6139 movement holder works very well for all of the 61 series. But you can see here this movement is pretty clean. There's some of the rust that's fallen off of that movement retainer spring is just laying here on the surface of this main plate, but really there's no rust, no corrosion, no signs of major ingress, and the balance is kicking around. Doesn't appear to have much wobble as is. Seems to be pretty straight. Staff is likely okay, but I think as far as the internals, this watch is in good shape. I would not be surprised to see that this movement belonged to a very nice cosmetic example, and so thankful that, as bad as this one might appear on the other side, that it's in good shape where it counts. We'll be able to get this movement running well and cleaned up. But you can see, as I mentioned, this one is the 6106, and it's of course here we'll get a little closer so you can see there. On the auto winding plate, this is the 6106C, so it does include quick set for the day and the date. Again, it shouldn't be any surprise that this many years later, and obviously through what may have been a less than thorough service, it's still running. You really have a hard time killing these old 61 series movements for Seiko. They are robust and almost bulletproof. It really takes a lot to kill these movements, and it's very easy to get them back into good running order. I hope you enjoyed an initial look at this one today. We'll probably stop it there for now. Looking forward to getting this one completely torn down and getting it back in order. You may have noticed there is no sweep hand there, but I went through my spares and I found the correct sweep for this model, so we'll be able to add that to our hour and minute hands there for a complete finish there. And of course, the owner of this watch was able to track down a new old stock bezel, so we'll have all of the case components that we need as well. So we're in good shape to get this one back to where it should be, and looking forward to sharing that with you on the other side. For Patreon members, you guys stick around. We're gonna dig into this one a little further. I'll show you guys some of the stuff in the teardown here, take a look at that missing set lever axle, and maybe discover some other issues with this movement. I don't know yet. If you liked our video today, please give us a like. Even better, you can subscribe. You can also join us over at Patreon, where $7 a month gets you exclusive access to content you won't see elsewhere. You can also get comprehensive rundowns of all of our upcoming inventory as it arrives to us, and much more. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.